What's up everyone, and thank you for stopping by the channel. Today's project is this Husqvarna Edger, and the problem is that it stopped running while being used. Now it won't start up again. Let's take a good look at it, find out what's wrong with it, and hopefully we can fix it. In this video, we try and repair this Edger. However, it may not be the exact repair you need to make to yours. We'll explore other options later in the video. From what I know, this Edger was used commercially, so it has a lot of miles on it. However, I think this model was a good choice for that type of use. I'm not exactly sure how it stopped, so I'm guessing it was running fine one moment and then just stopped working. Knowing exactly how it died would make diagnosing the problem a lot easier. Since I don't know how it stopped working, I want to put some fuel in the tank and try starting it. It might give us a clue as to what went wrong with it. If it tries to start, then it might be the carburetor. However, if it does nothing, then it might be something wrong with the engine. As you can see, it didn't even try and start, but there's something wrong with the engine. It's kind of loose where it attaches to the handle and the shaft, so I might have to take a look at that later on. The next thing I want to do is put some fuel into the carburetor's throat and try starting it. Now this fuel will basically bypass the carb's job of delivering fuel to the engine. If it starts and runs for a second, then we know we have a carburetor problem. So it still didn't start, and that tells me that it's not a carburetor issue, so it has to either be a worn out engine or a no spark issue. So to rule out a compression problem, I want to use my compression tester. You can find these at an auto parts store or online. This one was about $15 shipped to my door. Now all you need to do is remove the spark plug, screw it in, and then squeeze the trigger while you pull on the rope several times. I do have to apologize for the angle the gauge is resting at. It simply wouldn't stay in place, so I had to hang it over the edge. So the reading is about 165 psi, which is fantastic for this engine. It means this engine is very healthy, and that's not the reason why this engine isn't starting. The next test will be to see if we have spark. We'll need to put the spark plug back in for this test, so I'll remove the compression tester. I'll be using a spark tester for this part. You can also find these at your local auto parts store or online for a few dollars. Simply install it in line with the spark plug, pull the rope, and watch for an orange glow in the middle of the tester. To make filming easier, I'll move into a shaded area. As you just saw, there was an orange glow in the middle of the tester, so we do have spark. Now you don't have to purchase a tester to do this test. You can also remove your spark plug and install it back on the wire, then ground out the metal part of the spark plug to the engine, and then pull the rope a few times. What you're looking for is spark at the tip of the plug. So we just found out that we have all three major components for this engine to run: fuel, compression, and spark, so why won't it start? One of the last things we have to check is the ignition timing, and to do that we need to get to the flywheel. This will also give us a chance to check out why this engine might be loose on the shaft. So it looks like the screws on the compression sleeve are tight, so that's not the problem. It is interesting that the compression sleeve is made out of plastic versus metal. I'm going to take the rest of the handle apart and remove the shaft and compression sleeve to see if there's anything wrong with it. After taking the plastic compression sleeve out of the engine, I can see what happened. There's supposed to be a small bump here that sits inside the rubber isolator and the metal front cover. This keeps the coupler shaft from coming loose. Unfortunately, that bump is broken, so now it won't stay connected to the engine. I'll have to find a replacement for this online if I want to get this Edger working again. Another reason why this engine may not be starting is a spark plug that may not be getting the spark to the engine. Now we did test that there was spark, but if we have a faulty plug, it may not actually spark under pressure inside the engine. Now the easiest fix, of course, would be to replace the spark plug since they're very inexpensive. I want to put the piston at the top of its travel, and the easiest way would be to take the spark plug out and use something to feel the piston to see when it's at the top of its travel. Then I'll inspect the flywheel to see how far off it is from the coil. Well, it's hard to tell, but the flywheel is pretty much where it's supposed to be for the ignition system to work. The only thing left to do is to remove the flywheel with a puller and see if the key is broken. Now, the key will position the flywheel exactly where it's supposed to be, and if we find it broken, then the ignition timing will be off and the engine will not run properly, or in the worst case scenario, not run at all. If you don't have this type of puller, you could get away with a 2 or 3 claw puller, and if you don't have any pullers, you could replace the nut and leave it 2 turns loose and then hit the nut while holding the flywheel. However, you risk damaging the nut and the shaft as well. So here's the flywheel, and it looks like the key is actually built into it. It's hard to see, but it looks like it's broken. It's supposed to be here, and it sticks out just a bit so it can slide into a groove in the shaft. Now, I didn't see where the leftover piece went, but it should be in this empty groove here, so it must have fallen out when I removed the flywheel. Now, just as a test, I want to reinstall the flywheel back on the shaft the best I can, tighten the nut, and then try starting it. If it starts, it'll confirm that this was the problem. So that definitely was the problem. I have an idea on what happened. Since this is an edger with a metal blade, if the blade were to hit concrete quite often, the impact would travel through the shaft and into the engine. Then this would be enough force for it to break the key. It's pretty much the same thing that happens when you hit a stump or a piece of concrete with your mower, except you can also bend the shaft along with the blade. Unfortunately, the cost of the flywheel and the compression sleeves would push it well over $80, and for some people, that's just too much to spend on an old edger. That money would be better spent on a brand new one instead. So my question is, $80 too much to spend on this repair, or would you rather spend it on a new unit instead? Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions, and I hope to see you in the next video.